Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and I know what you're thinking. Lauren, it has been literal months since we saw you. Where the hell have you been? And honestly, that is a question that neither of us have the time or energy to get into. But I am here today because there is no way that I could just let news like this pass without mentioning it on my channel, especially because it seems to have grown arms and legs in the few days since the news came out. So, we need to talk about the W.I.T.C.H live action reboot. So, if you haven't heard, and I would be surprised because this news spread like wildfire across the internet, you know, Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, everywhere I go I see this, and people are sending it to me because of course they are. People are like, Lauren, have you seen this? Absolutely, I've seen it. Of course I've seen it. If something witch related happens, there is literally an alarm that goes off in my head. I know when a witch thing happens. Okay, so if you haven't heard, on the 24th of March, a podcast called Radical Retro Rewind did an interview with Trey Callaway. Now, Trey Callaway was one of the writers on season 1 of Witch, along with his wife, Nancy. And they were also consultants on the series, and something that I didn't know but found out from this podcast is that they also worked on the vocal production for the series, so working with the cast, recording the voices and putting that all together for the show. But he was a writer on the show. Him and Nancy wrote the episodes The Labyrinth and Escape from Cavagor. 2 episodes that I love. As we know, I am The Labyrinth's strongest soldier. That is one of my favourite episodes. I don't think it ever gets the love it deserves. Trey and Nancy brought us classics like This Steak Has Been Dropped on the Floor. How could they possibly know that? How could we not love them for this? But Trey's also a big writer. Like, he's done a lot of different shows. He's worked on CSI, Supernatural, like, so many times I've been watching like a random TV show, just like, you know, one of my TV shows that I enjoy, and it'll come up at the beginning, you know, written by Trey Callaway, and I'm like, Trey! Like, he just appears places. He's just one of those writers that gets around in the industry. And so this podcast was with him, and he was talking about various things in his career, but he was talking about Witch. And actually, if you are a Witch fan, I do recommend going and watching. He starts talking about Witch about halfway through. And honestly, just he has like really good memories of what happened. And a lot of the times I think, especially considering Witch is like 20 years old, sometimes when people talk about the series, people who worked on it, they've kind of forgotten a lot, and I don't blame them. Like, if you ask me about schoolwork that I completed 20 years ago, I would not be able to tell you. To be honest, if you asked me what work I did at my job yesterday, I probably wouldn't be able to tell you. So expecting people to be able to remember something that happened 20 years ago at their work is it's a tough call. But he does remember a lot about it, and he seemed to have really positive memories, a really positive time, and he really seems to love the show, which is awesome. Like, I love hearing that people love Witch, obviously. But during this interview, something he said, apropos of nothing, no one brought this up, he just brought us this information, and like completely casually just kind of says it, probably not realizing that the chaos that this would cause online when he said it. But he said that a very dear, and I'm making a quote here, a very dear writer friend of mine has been having meetings with Disney about a live action adaptation of Witch. I can't remember the exact wording of the end of that sentence, but a live action of Witch. And that's all he says, because he says, I can't name names, you know, confidentiality, he can't say any more, but he does know that his writer friend is meeting with Disney to discuss a live action reboot of Witch. Since this information has hit the internet, I have seen it be like so badly misinterpreted. A Brazilian Twitter account put up Witch is getting a live action series with the original comic creators Elisabetta, Alessandro, and Barbara. No, they were no. And the thing is that they linked the video as the source, and it's like, where in this video are you hearing about the original creator? No one mentioned the creators. And I've seen so many things. It's you know, going to be a more edgy adult series for Disney Plus. It's Greg Weisman's going to be working on it. The original TV show writers are going to be working on it. Like, I've heard so many different variations of what this is going to be, and the only information that we have is this interview with Trey Callaway. This information has not come from any other source apart from this interview with Trey Callaway. So I really wanted to talk about it because I wanted to clarify what we're actually dealing with here, and then obviously give you my thoughts. So all we know is that a writer friend of Trey's, no idea who they are, no idea what their history is, if they were ever connected with W.I.T.C.H originally or if they aren't. All we know is that a writer friend of Trey's is having meetings with Disney regarding a possible potential future, not yet in creation, but possibly going to be in creation, live action version of W.I.T.C.H. That is what we know currently. I can't remember if he specifically said it was a series as an adaptation or a movie. I think they said series. I think his words were a live action of that series. I think that was his exact words. So like a live action of the W.I.T.C.H TV series, but whether it's getting adapted into another series, I'm not sure was completely clear, but I think that was the implication, that it would be adapted into a series. The original writers of the comic books, not involved. Like that is, again, that's the only information we have. It's just writer, friend of Trey's, meeting with Disney, possible future adaptation of which. I don't think that Alessandro, Barbara and Elisabetta would ever work with Disney after the way they were treated. If you know what happened with them, you know, they created W.I.T.C.H themselves from the ground up, their baby, pitched it to Disney, Disney took it, and 6 issues into the series, Disney fired the 3 of them and then wouldn't let them back on the project. Years later, 2004, they took Disney to court to try and get the rights back to the thing that they created and lost. And to this day, they have never been able to get the rights to W.I.T.C.H back. I don't think they would ever work with Disney. They weren't involved with the TV show, they weren't involved with the reboot, and I don't think they would choose to work with Disney again after how Disney treated them. Actually, I remember Barbara a few years ago saying that for years she couldn't even talk about W.I.T.C.H because it was just too painful for her to remember. That even though, you know, she could see how much it meant to the fans, she couldn't engage in conversations about it because it was just too upsetting. That whole part of her life was a real source of trauma for her. So I don't think they would come back even if they were asked, but they haven't been asked. And that became quite clear yesterday, as I record this, it's the 2nd of April. Where Alessandro put up an Instagram post with an AI generated picture of Cornelia, Irma and Will. That's a different story. But saying, I'm working on some live action stuff at the moment, hashtag audiovisual. And it was obviously a joke. And then he clarified later, like, I'm not working on anything other than comic books. So definitely no involvement in this live action, should it ever come to the screens. Also, in terms of the TV show creators, I don't know entirely what people mean by TV show creators, because like the people who, there was no creator really of the TV show. Like Disney wanted an adaptation and then hired people to make it. No one like pitched it to Disney, like Disney hired people to make it for them. But the original like team, if you like, were of course the 2 main writers, Andrew Nichols and Daryl Vickers. Their names are so hard because they're so similar. Andrew Nichols and Daryl Vickers. And the director, Mark Gordon Bates. Could it be them? Who knows? We don't know. We don't know. Could be, could it not be? We literally don't know anything about this person. You know, people have mentioned Greg Wiseman. Greg was not the creator of the W.I.T.C.H TV show. He was hired to work on season 2. Probably not him, but we don't know. In terms of whether it's coming to Disney Plus, again, we don't know. Like, it could be a Disney Plus series. It could be a kidcom. It could be a Disney Channel kidcom. We don't know. We literally don't know anything at this point in time. And I think that's the part that I really want to stress, is that we literally know nothing. Yes, we know that there is talks happening, but we don't even know if it will come to fruition, because people pitch TV show ideas all the time and they don't ever make it to air. Sometimes they even get to making a pilot and then it never gets picked up, like the infamous Powerpuff Girls series that the pilot of which recently leaked on the internet. You know, it got through the whole pre-production stage. It had casts, it had costumes, it had a script, it filmed the pilot and then wasn't picked up for series. So these things happen. It happens more than you realize. The amount of TV shows that, you know, make pilots and then never come to air is far more than we get to see as the you know, the public. So, you know, to even say like, oh, we're definitely getting a live action Witch is a bit wishful thinking, because at the moment we don't know if we're getting a live action Witch. All we know is that it's definitely more possible now than it was maybe like a year ago, and there's more chance of it happening now than we realized. You know, obviously before we didn't think this had a chance in hell of happening, and now it could happen. But will it happen? Right now, we can't say that for sure, because these things don't always pan out. So we just have to wait and see, ultimately. For me, I've seen a lot of people say that they're very dead set against it, and I understand why. Personally, a live action has never been something I've been particularly asking for Witch. I think Witch works better in a medium where it's, you know, made of art, if that makes sense. So comics, animation, video games, if that was a thing that we were going to get more of instead of that terrible GBA game that I have my beef with. You know, I think Witch is better when it's created using art rather than people, live action. I don't know if Witch would actually transfer very well into live action. It really depends on the budget they give it. A lot of people have been talking about Fate the Winx saga, and Fate I think is a very different situation, because Fate was created with a very specific idea in mind. This like older, edgier, more like realistic, kind of typical fantasy thing. Like it, you know, it didn't have the vibe of Winx. It wasn't supposed to have the vibe of Winx. I don't really know what they were thinking when they made it, because it doesn't really appeal to Winx fans, and it wasn't really a very good show in its own right. But I watched it. But one of the things that is so memorable about Fate the Winx saga is that they didn't do a transformation until the end of season 2, and the transformation looked like ass. It was so bad. And this is the thing, is when you've got a series like Witch that involves these like transformations and stuff, and a giant snake monster, you need the budget to be able to make those things. If you've got the budget of Avengers, sure. If you got the budget of Wizards of Waverly Place, probably not. So, I don't know. I don't think Witch transfers to live action very well, but I suppose we just have to wait and see. But in terms of would I watch it? Yeah, I would. Like, at this point in time, Witch has been adapted and changed so many times. You know, it was a comic, and then it was a show, and then we had the reboot, and I feel like this is just another variation. And if it sucks, then it sucks, and I will be here to tell you about it and tell you why I think it sucks. But it could be good. I could enjoy it, and ultimately, you know, an adaptation that isn't good doesn't destroy the original, if that makes sense. Like, the fact that the reboot changed a lot of things doesn't alter the original in any way. It's just an adaptation. It's just a version. And, you know, I would quite happily watch another version of Witch, even if it wasn't very good. Because there might be little things in there that I enjoy. And, yeah, like, I'm not going to pass up Witch content at the end of the day. So if it comes out, believe me, I will be there with bells on. I might not enjoy it, but I will be there with bells on. But yeah, that's really all I had to say. I just thought, I can't just not make a video about this. Like, this is the craziest news I've heard in so long. Like, to actually hear someone say that, I almost fell out my chair. I was at work, and I watched this video on my phone, because as soon as I saw the notification, I was like, no, I can't just pretend I didn't read that. I need to know what's happening here. And yeah, I almost fell out my chair, because that's truly the one piece of news I never expected to hear from this franchise. So, but yeah, I just thought I would make a video about it, and again, clarify that as of right now, we don't know anything more than that an unnamed writer is meeting with Disney about possibly bringing Witch to live action. No involvement from the comic creators, probably no involvement from the people who worked on the TV show, but we don't know. No confirmation on whether it's going to Disney. channel or Disney Plus, or what kind of age range it would be for, or what kind of show it would be, or anything like that. We don't have any information. But if we do get that information, then I will be here and I will bring it to you and we can discuss. But yeah, let me know in the comments below, do you like the idea of Witch having a live action, or are you dead set against it? How are you feeling? Let me know. I'm sorry I haven't been here in so long. I wish I could be here more, but it's these. I want to make videos, but I can't really edit them is the problem. I can film them, I can sit here in front of the camera and talk, but if they need any kind of degree of proper editing, I can't really do it. Hopefully that will change in the future, but yeah, it's like I say, it's a story that neither of us have the time or energy for at the moment. But yeah, if anything more happens with Witch in terms of live action, I will be here to bring you the news. But until then, or until something else happens that I can manage to make a video about, thank you for being here. Thank you for sticking around. If if you are still subscribed to me despite my absence, I really appreciate it, because I really hope I can come back eventually and make videos for you guys again, because I really miss it. I really do. I have so many ideas and I can't get them out and it's really frustrating. But yeah, thanks for being here, and let me know in the comments how you're feeling, and I will see you sometime. Bye everyone.